Hey everybody, I am here with your Monday Motivational for June 5th, 2017 for World Literature. I have a few topics to go over with you this week, but not as much as usual because, like I told you last week, we're starting to slow down and put more extended time into the assignments that we're doing and doing fewer assignments. This week we're starting a new text, which is called the Popol Vuh, and it's also known as the Mayan Book of the Dawn of Life. As is always the case in our world literature class, you might find this text a little bit unusual as you begin reading it. Try not to get too distracted by all the names. So the way that they name things or name characters in this text might seem very strange to you. Some of their names involve numbers, and we're not used to that in our culture. But try just to accept that those are names of characters. Anyway, another thing that can help is knowing that in the Quichua language, which is what this book was originally written in, the letter X makes a sh sound. So, for example, when you get to the sections when you're reading about Hunahpu and his little friend his twin, his name begins with an X, that's actually pronounced Shpalonke. So, Shpalonke. You can see how that X at the beginning actually just makes a sh sound, and then you pronounce the rest of it as you would expect, with the QUE making a hard K sound. Also note that this text does not necessarily go in chronological order. That is very important to keep in mind as you try to keep track of who is doing what and why they're doing things. So you might learn about sons before you find out about the stories about their fathers. So just keep that in mind as you're reading. You do want to pay some special attention to when what you're reading is happening. I've also provided a reading guide for the Popol Vuh, and I think that's going to be really helpful for y'all for this text, so make sure that you check that out. It will be linked with the transcript of this video in the announcement, and then as always you can find it in the reading guides section, which is linked on our homepage in Canvas. Okay, so this week you're going to be working on your next building block. It's actually your last one, which is the annotated bibliography. This is BB4. The purpose of this assignment is to help you figure out what scholars are interested in regarding the texts and the topics that you are writing about. You may agree or disagree with these scholars, or you may add to what they're arguing. You may modify what they're arguing. The point is that you interact with their ideas and that you get the experience of considering and evaluating multiple interpretations of a text. This is vital for world literature, and so the research paper is a perfect time to start doing that. Because it does give you the opportunity to research what other people think about these texts, to figure out if you agree with that or not, and then to build your argument based on your reactions to these other readings and how they interact with your own readings. For this assignment, you'll need 5 scholarly articles to be successful, and I want to tell you a little bit about what that means. A scholarly text is something written by an expert in his or her field, and it's also reviewed and checked for accuracy and relevance by other experts in the field. And this process is called peer review. All the articles that undergo peer review are scholarly. Sometimes they're also just called peer-reviewed articles. And those are the types that you're going to be looking for the annotated bibliography. Now, English at Clemson has a research librarian named Camille Cooper, and she's fantastic, and she has put together a library resource guide for our specific world literature class. And it's got all kinds of resources to help you figure out where you can start your research. It's got databases for you to check out. It has information about contextual stuff you might want to read about. So let's say you're making an argument about justice, and you want to compare, let's say, Dante's Justice to historical accounts of justice in 14th century Florence in Italy. She's got information on this resource guide that can help you find that kind of information as well, and then also help you find the scholarly sources. Note that historical, like encyclopedic type sources are not scholarly. They're reputable. You can trust them, but they don't undergo peer review in the same way. So they won't count as your 5 sources. Okay, let's see. Oh, and I've just told you some information about scholarly sources, but the library resource guide actually has a chart that Camille has put together with excellent suggestions on how you can recognize if an article is scholarly or not. So please do check that out. It is on the home page of our resource guide because it's that important. And so check it out and let me know if you have questions about it, because it might seem perfectly clear to you or it might not, so the best thing is to read through that and then let me know what you have questions about. You can also email me your articles and the information about the articles, and I can help you determine if it's scholarly if you can't figure it out on your own, or if you've kind of gone through all those steps that Camille suggests and you're still not sure. Regardless of whether you send them to me or not, I will let you know in my feedback on BB4 if any of your texts are not scholarly, because for your final draft of the research paper, you do need to have a scholarly source. And if you don't have that scholarly source, it's a really big ding in your paper grade. So you want to make sure that you check my feedback for BB4 to make sure that the source that you decided you wanted to focus on in your final paper is not a non-scholarly source, because that would be a bummer. Okay, the other thing to note about the annotated bibliography assignment is that I'm primarily interested in you showing me that you first understand what the article says. You understand the basic argument and concepts presented in the article. But the second thing I want you to show me is that you have a sense of how you might use that article in your argument. And this is going to be a big chunk of your annotated bibliography entry for each of your sources. I do fully explain my expectations and what you should do in the BB4 assignment, which I'm going to link in this transcript for the video as well. And so please read through those instructions carefully. And I also strongly suggest that you read the sample annotated bibliography entry, because it will give you an example of exactly what I'm looking for in each entry. And it also has some tips and suggestions for your reading and research process. Let's see. Oh, also check out the rubric for the annotated bibliography. And so the rubric and the sample annotated bibliography entry will both be attached to the assignment. Finally, a word of caution. These texts take a very long time to read. They are not quick reads. They're unfortunately not often exciting reads. But if you give yourself enough time, you'll find that you can really start to understand some amazing concepts, and you'll be able to think about the text and the ideas that you're thinking about in a brand new way, and it can really expand your horizons and your ability to analyze the text you're looking at. What I suggest is actually working with some kind of time management system. So if you've already got one, that's wonderful. I use the Pomodoro technique, and it's a time boxing technique that I will also link in the transcript for this video. But the Pomodoro technique is available as a desktop application that you can launch in like Chrome or something like that in your browser, and it will block distracting websites like Facebook or YouTube. And I don't know about Netflix. I would bet probably Netflix as well. But anyway, so it will block those websites, and it'll also chunk your time up into 25 minutes, and then you get a 5-minute break. And this is the Pomodoro technique, and I'll link to the Pomodoro technique website so that you can get a fuller explanation of how it works and why it's set up that way. Or you could use a phone application, which is what I use. They have them on both Android and iOS, and they have lots of free ones as well, so you could just find one that works for you. I use this Pomodoro technique. I used it first to write my dissertation, which is a giant, like 200-page paper that you write to get your PhD. And it just seemed very daunting to me, and I felt like I was working all the time, but I didn't have anything to show for it. And so I started doing this Pomodoro technique, and it saved me so much time. And I still use it for all of my teaching, all of my prep, all of my my dog is barking, all of my grading, and it just saves me so much time. And it's really great for reading because it builds in breaks so that you don't have to have this endless, reading time stretching before you for an unknown amount of time. You get a break every 25 minutes. You just have to sit down for 25 minutes and read, and then you can do something else. Anyway, so like I said, I'm going to link information to that stuff in the transcript for this video. As always, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. You can contact me via email or in the Q&A forum that's in our discussion section of our class Canvas. And have a great week, everybody.